Captain Midnight.
This video is brought to you by CuriosityStream, and it contains spoilers for Peter Parker's character arc in Into the Spider-Verse. The idea of Spider-Man getting old is kind of weird. A lot of people say that superhero stories are, at their most basic level, a power fantasy for the reader or viewer. Now, I think that idea is a little too simplistic, but I don't think it's totally wrong either. There's a reason kids pretend blankets are capes or play with superhero action figures. When you're young, it's really fun to imagine that you're swinging through the air, flying into space, or battling evil to save the city. And I'm really not sure that ever totally goes away. But in many ways, the reality of aging is the complete opposite of that fantasy. I think there's a real sadness to watching legends slowly fade rather than go out with a big bang. You can see this in the real world all the time. When I was a kid, Allen Iverson seemed like an untouchable basketball god. Fast, dynamic, surprising, he was easily one of the most fun players to watch. And there's something uncomfortable about watching all of that slowly come apart, as Iverson kind of quietly turned into a shadow of that player. He was still great in moments, but not really able to fully claw his way back to his former glory, quietly finishing off his career in Turkey with very little fanfare. Superheroes never have to face that reality if we don't want them to. Peter Parker was 16 in 1962, and even though he's older now, he's never that much older. I mean, in the comics right now, he's even back in college. He's always kind of going to be in a state of arrested development, never quite having his life totally together, but always being in his physical prime. One of the most interesting aspects of the new Into the Spider-Verse movie is seeing that whole idea upended. We get that older Peter Parker, and he's not exactly aging gracefully.
Spider-Man.
Now granted, this isn't the first time ever we've seen an older Peter. In Spider-Girl, Peter has lost his leg in a battle and retired, leaving the fight to his daughter. This always seemed kind of dumb to me, since replacing a limb in the Marvel universe should really be as easy as stopping by Tony Stark or Reed Richards' apartment. But the point is, in this version of the universe, it all comes crashing down at once, not slowly over time. He was a great Spider-Man, and then all at once, he couldn't do it anymore. There's also Spider-Man Reign, where he's old and bitter after killing Mary Jane with his, radioactive sperm. Oh, and it's also set in a dystopian future. Whatever, it's a weird comic. My point is that Spider-Verse is special because it feels fresh to see Peter Parker just keep doing what he's doing while slowly losing his passion for the job, rather than one big dramatic change in his life stopping him from being Spider-Man. Peter Parker is famous for being one of the most grounded and relatable superheroes, so the problems of an older Peter being that he's just kind of stuck in a rut, afraid to really move on to the next stage of his life with Mary Jane, and feeling a bit disillusioned with the work that he was once so passionate about, makes a lot more sense to me than the other, more dramatic old Peter Parkers we've seen. I think a lot of people can see themselves in that, whereas very few of us are going to lose a limb while fighting Green Goblin to the death. Spider-Verse is definitely a Miles Morales movie, first and foremost, but it really does a lot with Peter's character, in a way that's actually a lot sadder than it might appear at first glance. It's such a funny movie that it's easy to gloss over the fact that when Miles says Uncle Ben's iconic motto to Peter, he shuts him down immediately. With great power comes great responsibility may still be words that he tries to live by, but at this point he can't help but resent them. They've hung over his entire life since he was a teenager, inspiring him, but also, at least to some extent, making him live with a lot of guilt. Again, I don't want to make this sound too depressing because it is a funny scene. It's not like the movie plays it as a Greek tragedy or something. But still, it's definitely there. And the more you think about it, the more complex Peter's character arc becomes. I actually think that's one of the biggest strengths of this movie. It's packed with characters and action, but it's very smart about giving each of its lead a backstory that suggests so much more than just what ends up on screen. There's a great moment in Spider-Verse where Miles meets up with Peter while crawling around in an air vent. Peter is taken aback for a second because someone is actually there to help him for once. And in that small, light moment, you get the sense that this Peter Parker is far from the Peter of the MCU, with a ton of other heroes around, and a lot more like the Spider-Man of Tobey Maguire. a fairly isolated figure with no one else to really fight alongside him. The flashbacks drive this home too, showing a slightly different version of events from the original Spider-Man trilogy. Now, I don't think this necessarily means this Peter is the exact one from those movies, but he definitely led a similar life, and there's something poignant about seeing a version of that Spider-Man so many years later. We don't get much of Mary Jane in this film, but we understand their relationship immediately, and it feels like it could be a continuation of the Peter-MJ relationship from the Raimi films. This is actually a very smart move on the filmmaker's part, as it really allows the audience to feel like they know this Peter Parker well, while also being able to focus most of the attention on its actual lead, Miles. The older Peter is not the only Peter Parker to be found in this movie, but he's definitely the most interesting one. We've seen superheroes get old before. Old Man Logan is a great example, but even that takes place in an ultra dark future. I like this version of Spider-Man because it wasn't some futuristic apocalypse that made him miserable. It was just getting older and getting kind of bored with everything. By the end of the movie, he's out of this rut, but I'd still love to see what happens next. This Peter Parker may be older, but I feel like there's so much more to explore with this version of the character. And it goes to show that maybe Marvel shouldn't be so afraid of letting its characters start showing their age a bit. So before I go, I want to let you know that I actually will be taking a 2-week break from the channel, and I won't have a new video up until January 10th. I haven't really taken a vacation since starting the channel, and to be honest, a nice long Christmas break sounds pretty amazing after this finals week. But I definitely want to leave you with something to watch over the holidays, which is why I'm recommending the documentary series Inside the Human Body on Curiosity Stream. This was amazing. Basically, it does for the body what Cosmos did for space, just breaking things down in a really understandable way with super stunning visuals to help. And there's so much more to find on Curiosity Stream. It has over 2,000 documentaries to watch. Not just about science either, you'll find tech, history, nature, and a ton more. All brought to you by a great service founded by the same guy who started the Discovery Channel. And at $2.99 a month, the price just can't be beat. But you can also check it out for 30 days for free by going to curiositystream.com/CaptainMidnight and watch a great documentary on almost any device.
Here's a special tip for the fellas and girls who have not already joined Captain Midnight's new 1940 Flight Patrol. You'd better hurry up and join at once because there's a big adventure ahead. The thing to do now is to get started, because we're going to have not only barrels of fun, but loads of free gifts and prizes too.